In the world of software, speed isn't just a metric, it's a feeling. There's a precise scientific boundary where a user stops feeling in control and starts feeling like they are waiting for a machine. This boundary is exactly 100 milliseconds. When an interface responds within this window, the human brain perceives the action as instantaneous. It feels like a direct physical extension of your hand. But the moment you cross that threshold, even by a tiny margin, the illusion of reality breaks. Your app stops feeling like a tool and starts feeling like a chore. Today, we're diving into the 100 milliseconds rule, why it exists, how we break it, and the engineering tricks used by the world's fastest apps to hide the latency that's unavoidable in modern distributed systems. To understand why staying under 100 milliseconds is so difficult, we have to look at what happens when you click a single button. It's never just one thing. First, there's the input lag of the hardware. Then, the browser's main thread has to process the event. Then comes the network. The speed of light itself becomes a bottleneck as your request travels to a data center, perhaps halfway across the country. Once there, your server might spend 50 milliseconds querying a database, 20 milliseconds calculating a response, and another 100 milliseconds sending that data back. By the time the browser receives the success message and re-renders the screen, you haven't just missed the 100 millisecond window, you've blown past it by a factor of 5. This is the cumulative latency stock, and it is the enemy of every high-performance application.
So how do apps like Instagram or Linear feel so fast despite these physics-based delays? They use a technique called optimistic UI. Instead of waiting for the server to confirm a change, the app assumes success. When you hit like, the heart turns red immediately. The UI state updates on the client side at 0 milliseconds, while the network request happens in the background. If the request eventually fails, the app gracefully rolls back the state. This shift from wait then update to update then verify is what separates trashy-feeling apps from professional ones. It's a psychological trick that aligns the interface with the user's intent rather than the server's reality. Let's look at the implementation logic for an optimistic toggle.
But what if the action takes longer than a few hundred milliseconds and you can't be optimistic? This is where the perception of progress comes in. A blank screen or a static loading text is the worst possible experience. It leaves the user wondering if the app crashed. Research shows that skeleton screens, low-fidelity placeholders that mimic the layout of the content, feel significantly faster than spinners or progress bars. They give the eye a place to land and signal that the structure of the data is already known. By providing constant visual feedback, you keep the user's internal clock from noticing the delay. You aren't actually making the code faster. You are making the wait more tolerable by reducing cognitive load.
You might think 100 milliseconds is a pedantic engineering goal, but for businesses, it's a financial necessity. Google found that an extra 500 milliseconds in search page loading time dropped traffic by 20%. Amazon reported that every 100 milliseconds of latency costs them 1% in total sales. When your app feels trashy, users don't just get annoyed, they leave. In a world of infinite choices, responsiveness is a competitive advantage. It signals quality, reliability, and respect for the user's time. Performance is not a feature you add later. It is the foundation upon which all other features are built. If your foundation is laggy, your entire product is perceived as unstable. To build apps that feel like magic, you must respect the 100 milliseconds rule. This means aggressive caching, optimistic updates, and prioritizing the main thread. It means treating every millisecond of a request lifecycle as a precious resource. Stop building interfaces that wait for the world to be perfect before showing the user a result. Build interfaces that move at the speed of thought. Because in the end, the difference between a tool that people love and one they tolerate is simply how fast it responds to their touch. Thanks for watching. If you're ready to optimize your stock, start by measuring your P99 latency today.